Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Spencer from CaOverwatch, and welcome to another episode. We are very excited to talk about the Summer Showdown performance from the Toronto Defiant.
Yeah.
With me, as always, is Christopher Calls. Chris, how's it going?
It's going amazing. Let me tell you, I was buzzing all night last night. I could not get to sleep until like 2 o'clock in the morning.
Well, yeah.
Which was crazy.
Because that was the best part. I truly think that for a Defiant fan and an Overwatch fan as a whole, this has to have been the best weekend of Overwatch, personally, I can remember. Because not only were the finals and semifinals some of the best Overwatch matches I've ever seen in my entire life, between the Shock and the Paris Eternal, and also the the Paris Eternal and the Philadelphia Fusion. But also, we actually had a Toronto Defiant top 4 finish, something that I never thought I would say. Generally, I mean, since
this season at least,
since season 1, stage 1, or I guess season 2, stage 1, but you guys know what I mean. Season 1 of Defiant, like, this truly was an incredible performance for the Defiant as a whole. So I got that side of it where my team did really well, and also I got to watch some of the best Overwatch in a long time. So you're right, I was buzzing.
Well, it was perfect because this type of Overwatch, Genji related, Tracer related Overwatch, is exciting in general to watch because you can have so many like lost games where you think somebody's going to lose and they clutch back with a big comeback. And for me, really, I like seeing this much hype around Overwatch because I know that, just like 3 or 4 months ago, people were saying Overwatch was dead with Valiant coming out and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And just to see like Overwatch kind of make a resurgence with the amount of good Overwatch, the amount of hype surrounding it on Twitter, and the amount of views that they are getting.
Yeah.
Like they're getting like
70,000.
70,000 views, and that's on YouTube. You can also watch through Overwatch League itself during those tokens.
I think that counts. I think that does count. I'm not sure, but I think the tokens does count. But you're right. There's people who are watching companion streams. There's people who are watching on, I think, like MLG TV or something still streams it.
Yeah.
There's like multiple different, there was like the French version, right? So if the Paris Eternal in the finals, right, there's like a French different broadcast of the Overwatch League, which had X amount of views. Like, you're right. It was incredibly successful, and it wasn't even on Twitch. Like, imagine if that was on Twitch, how big it would have been. Either way, it was I love the tournament structure too. I hope we keep that going, and this isn't just a season 3 thing.
Yes.
I know we have another one in August, which I'm very excited for. So we don't know the teams yet, but when we do, be sure to check us out. We will definitely cover it from a Defiant perspective.
And Spencer, before we got into talking about the actual Toronto Defiant, what was your favorite moment of the tournament?
My favorite moment of the tournament has to have been either when EQO absolutely clutched, and arguably the greatest play in Overwatch League history, or when Paris, I don't want to say when Paris clutched, low-key when the Shock clutched. When Paris, like when the Shock came back, sorry, my thing's blowing up right now. When the Shock came back from basically losing the cough map, and Troy Oben rolls in on the hamster ball, and they end up clutching that fight. I think that was incredibly clutch. That was the moment where I was like, there's no way Paris threw this, and the Shock are actually going to clutch and win this whole thing. That was one of my favorite moments. How about you?
Man, I was actually going to say the same thing. Initially, you think like, okay, EQO on the very last, on like point 1 of Rialto in the very last map. But I really think that Rialto Dorado, I think. But I really think that, it was that one where Sparkle really like clutched it out against Shock. The very end there.
It was incredibly impressive. Okay, so sorry, I'm just trying to mute everything. I gotta start doing this beforehand. With that out of the way, Chris, give me your first impressions. Obviously, we're Toronto Defiant fans here on the show, and for me, it was incredibly exciting and impressive to see the Toronto Defiant perform as well as they did. The map started off with the LA Valiant, a team that a lot of people didn't predict us doing well against. Even we, when we did our preview show, didn't necessarily predict us doing well against. But I know as the week progressed, and I started watching like people break down the Genji versus Tracer. This was like at the day of the match or the day before. I was like, when I think the first upset happened and Houston Outlaws beat Florida Mayhem, I was like, if you guys think your brackets are boomed now, just wait until Defiant 3-1 Valiant. Because it was when I realized that the Genji meta was actually better overall than the Tracer compositions. That was when I was like, oh, we actually have a shot at this. And this was, I mean, obviously, and then they play Apply on Break for the first time in 2 years and Gig subs in randomly for Dreamer. Obviously, that that helps us as well. But I think even regardless, even without that, we still would have had a pretty good shot just because of how well we played the Genji comp and how I think Agilities is just a better Genji than KSF.
Well, just to be clear, like you can't deny the fact that there was something going on with the Valiant. So
For sure.
but I'm not to take away from Toronto Defiant's win at all. I think one of the keys was not having, like, I don't know how they scrim, but not having a lot LA Valiant not having a lot of game tape on how Toronto Defiant played, because I feel like lots of the times in the past and in some of these games, as we'll talk about a little bit later on against Atlanta, Toronto would do well because we were running different comms that people weren't used to. And I think that was a case for the LA Valiant. I think that we ran Tracer, or when we were running the Genji comp, not only was Agilities doing really, really well, he was playing amazingly, but LA Valiant, considering they had not seen a lot of the Genji comp before, did not have a lot of footage on how to counter us.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about that. Like, they played Paris the week before, and they ran the Genji comp, and they saw us play, Dallas Fuel and run the Genji comp. Like, I don't think it was they were caught off guard by that. Like, I think a lot of teams are playing the Genji comps and scrims and stuff like that. Like, I think a lot of people knew that was going to be meta. I think the issue was they had such a good Ashe Tracer team, and they just played Ashe Tracer. And I think that we just had a better, not only were Genji, the Genji composition is superior composition, but we were actually pretty good at the Genji composition. So we were able to counter their Ashe Tracer. And when they did sub in KSF, it was sort of like they might not have scrimmed that as much, or obviously having Apply and Gig in there hurt them, but also KSF just isn't as good of a Genji as Agilities is.
Yeah, well, I mean, you could say that. I'd also just point out that, we have a decent Tracer Ashe with Logic Surf Force. So they also could have spent some of their time preparing for that. So we actually had all of our DPS were highly suited for this meta, which is quite amazing. So I think there's a little bit of deception there, but I think there are times during the Valiant game where I was very high, and sometimes when I was a little bit lower on Toronto Defiant. I think for the Toronto Defiant, how we did really, really well was a lot of the times by kind of like building. Like, obviously Busan was a little bit of a warm-up for us. Kings Row, still a little bit messy. We're really good at holding third point on Kings Row.
Our second point defense sucks.
Tournament.
But
through the whole tournament. Kings Row third point. Pretty darn good.
And we even had moments on Kings Row first. It just seemed to be Kings Row second that we couldn't really get down.
Yeah, it was mostly that, and then we built up to a newest, and we absolutely slapped them. It was really fun to build up.
For me, it was interesting because I think the LA Valiant showed a couple things. One was I was a little bit disappointed to see Agilities play the Maze strat on Kings Row defense. I understand that it was a good strategy, and I know he talked about how successful it was in scrims. The problem was, and I think it would have really worked if you had went up against a team like let's say Philadelphia Fusion, where they probably just beat you in the Genji mirror matchup and maybe want to show some different looks. But the problem was, I think that Agilities was just a better Genji than KSF, and I kind of think he could have just played the mirror on Kings Row and won, even on defense. And then you probably could have saved that strategy for a tougher team like Atlanta Reign or Philadelphia, because I think the issue was they showed the strat versus LA. They showed the strat again versus Atlanta. And then by the time Philadelphia played them, they're like, you're doing the May defense strategy that we've watched you do 4 times, because both Atlanta and LA, I think, went into overtime, or 3 at least, right? Like, he's like, I saw that 3-4 times, and they just rolled us on it. So it was sort of like, maybe he could have saved that, but it's tough to say because he also held third so well with the May strategy for so long. So, I mean, it is what it is, and obviously you don't want to run the Genji and lose. So, I mean, it was worth it in the end. But
that's what I mean. I'm just saying, like, you can say like, oh, maybe it should have held in hindsight, but once again, like, nobody predicted us to get past the Valiant, let alone the Atlanta. It's
for sure.
You want to pull out your stops.
Yeah, and my only thing was, like, I think even if Atlanta would have made a little bit more sense, because Edison or they had the potential to run Erster or Edison on Genji, but I think with LA, like, I think you just win the mirror. So you run the risk of, like, maybe the main strat isn't as good as you think it is. Like, it just seemed like a potential unnecessary risk, but obviously it panned out. So I'm not complaining too much. That was like a little bit of a concern of mine, where I was like, man, like, just mirror Genji. Like, you're just a better Genji Agilities. You know what I mean? Like, just like dominate, work KSF in the neutral and pull out that W. But either way, we got the win. I think the biggest takeaway for this was sort of our ability to, like, bounce back in Junkertown. Junkertown started out so poorly for us, where, like, the LA Valiant absolutely rolled us, right? So LA Valiant gets a 3-minute, they cap Junkertown 3-0 with like 3 minutes left on the clock. As soon as I saw that, I was like, knowing this team, it's done, right? It's going to a map 5. There's no way they bounce back. And then they start doing Junkertown attack, and it's like terrible, right? They're losing team fight after team fight. Yeah. I'm like, oh my God, here we go again. Like, typical Toronto. And then all of a sudden they manage to cap first, and then they just snowball it. And they just roll through second and third, and they finish with less time than the Valiant, but still like a really good time bank. It was like 2 minutes and 37 seconds or something like that. And then not only that, but once they cap second, they then take that momentum in overtime and full cap Junkertown again, and then first held Valiant on first point Junkertown defense. Like, I was like, what is this team? I haven't seen this all year. Like, it was just, I was just so expecting a Toronto crumble, and it just seemed like they actually just like mentally stabilized, brought it out of their mental bounce back, and were able to like full hold them. I was like, man, that is a team that I've wanted to see all year long. And Nevix had such a good Junkertown, and I think it really started that like Nevix redemption arc that we also saw throughout the tournament.
Yes, and I think lots of the references we're going to be making is between this tournament and plays before. And I will agree with you. I think one of the issues we've had is our mentality. You know, when you just lose so much, you can really get in the mentality where like you start to lose and you don't have confidence in yourself to make it back. And I think that this Junkertown map was one of the reasons why we could win against Atlanta.
Yeah,
because you know,
it must have helped your confidence for sure.
Yeah, well, not even that. I think it almost kind of changed how they strategically played, because we saw and we'll talk about this a little later, but we saw against Atlanta, Toronto was making some pretty ballsy plays, and I'm specifically referencing like stuff like Volsky first point attack. We just ran into them. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely like ran and face tanked damage. Like you wouldn't have seen that normally from a slow, more methodical.
We were so
player like Defiant. Yeah. Like, so I'll say that I think that confidence like directly not only helped us with our mentality, but also helped us like try out some different strats that ended up working.
Yeah, no, I agree. Okay, so I think that's a pretty good transition in getting to the Atlanta game, because you're right. This is the game that I thought we should have won. Throughout history of Toronto Defiant, I'm like, we should win this game, and then we lose, and I'm disappointed. But I wasn't. We won. I was like, awesome, 3-1. It was a good game. We take that momentum. We get picked. Just a little side note, I'm really happy we beat LA because they disrespected us by picking us ahead of the Washington Justice. Like, if you're packing 10, you got to be kicking yourself right now. I mean, I don't mind them calling us bad because it is what it is. Like, I like trash talk, but to pick us over the Justice was some of the most disrespectful stuff I've ever seen in my entire life. So I'm really happy we got the win there. But we go up against the Atlanta Reign. They pick us too, although that one made a little bit more sense. Although I still think Houston was worse, but it doesn't matter. We go up against the Atlanta Reign. This is a team that's had our number all year long. We played 3 matches against them. They beat us 3-0 every single time. We had a team fight win percentage of 32% versus the Atlanta Reign going into this matchup. And then all of a sudden, I thought there was no way that we were going to be able to take this one out, but we ended up coming out on top. So, Chris, give me quick thoughts on like what the difference was between how we played Atlanta previously and how we played Atlanta now.
Well, I think one of the big differences was Cruz and Nevix. And I'm going to give them credit where credit's due on this. Let's not ignore the fact that Agilities also played amazingly. Yeah. But one thing that I noticed was the difference with Cruz and Nevix. I think on Busan and Control when we lost, we were almost seeing the old Cruz and Nevix. I remember specific moments where Cruz was really not taking care of the Tracer, kind of was ignoring it, and then turned it back to the Tracer and got directly pulse bombed. And I was like, oh no, not this again, because it's kind of your job as a break to check the Tracer and stuff like that, and directly ignoring it was kind of like, I was like, okay, what's going on? But as we saw things progress, I saw Cruz making amazing plays, amazing whip shots, amazing bashes to deny abilities. And let's get serious. Like, it was most apparent on Nepal where Nevix popped off. But Nevix was making plays throughout the whole match.
Yeah. So Nevix was like this. Nevix, I think, had a lot of people talked about Agilities in his redemption arc. And I would argue that Nevix had potentially an even bigger glow up. Like, I think Nevix was someone who came into this year. We've talked about it multiple times. I had a lot of hope for Nevix, a lot of promise. I think for the most part, he's disappointed me this year, especially his Sigma play. And that might be just because I unfairly put high expectations on him. But I also think that his Sigma play overall wasn't that great. But this tournament was the exact opposite. Like, Nevix was making so many plays and so many clutch plays. His ability to, like, and this happened even a lot during the LA Valiant game, his ability to accretion a Sigma out of midair while they're using Flux was so surprisingly consistent throughout this entire match. Multiple times, like, McGravy or Hawk had like a 3-4 person Flux, and Nevix was able to accretion them out of it. So overall, he just had an incredible performance from me. I think this thing, again, it just showed Toronto's ability to like win maps that like win scrappy maps, whereas in the past, I think they kind of threw those, they would crumble under the pressure. And like Volskaya is the number one thing for me, where like I watched Volskaya back and I was like, man, there's no way we should have won this match. Like Volskaya, no, not the match, sorry, the map. Like Volskaya was such a gong show. I think looking back, I have no idea how we were able to take that, how we were able to first cap. Agilities takes a blade, picks one, and then dies, and then Atlanta picks Kariv. So we're missing our Genji and our Baptiste, and then like Numlock and Nevix able to, bring it back from the brink of destruction alongside of Logix's Bob and full cap it with the snowball potential on 2CP was insane. I was like, we never win a fight 4v5 on 2CP when they have spawn advantage. Like, that never happens. So like, especially against Atlanta, like, what an incredible performance. And you're right. Nepal was like the biggest clown fiesta I've ever seen in my entire life.
Oh,
like,
absolute nut show.
The fact that Nevix was able to turn that one fight with the Flux, then the toe touch of the century.
Oh my gosh.
The greatest toe touch of all time.
Toes. Let's go.
Nevix's toes? The savior of the Summer Showdown? And then not only that, but he also accretions. This was one that I didn't even realize until Logix actually was reviewing his VOD on stream. So shout out to Logix, because there was right before that moment happened and turn, in order to give Nevix an opportunity to touch, Hawk basically gets a Flux, and it's got like it's got Agilities, Nevix, and Kariv in it. And Nevix is like less than half health. Like, the Flux is going to kill Nevix, and if he dies, we lose that map, and we probably lose the entire match. But while he's in mid Flux, he hits Hawk out of the Flux with such a clutch accretion that like snowballs us to winning the entire match. It was so incredible to watch, and he gets a toe touch of the century. So overall, just a fantastic performance from Nevix. Like, I was blown away.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And the thing I definitely want to see from them is, taking these things that they've learned from this tournament and the comments that they take into the next couple of weeks. I think, this is, considering our performance, it's a blip in our performance report card. Yeah. And I'm hoping to turn it from a blip into an upward trend.
No, I completely agree. And obviously, a lot of people will say it's because of the meta, but I hope that it isn't. Like, I hope that the whole reason we did well wasn't just because Agility can play Genji and other teams are running Ash Tracer. Like, I do think part of the reason with Atlanta was like, they just decided, I think going into this matchup, they were going to play Ash Tracer. That's why you saw it so much early on. And when it wasn't working, they just tried to swap Edison on Genji. And then you even saw Rialto, like, once he got comfortable, they actually were kind of able to roll us. So I'm a little afraid that, like, if more teams just had more opportunity to practice the Genji comp, like, how would we have performed? But I hope it's not just that. Like, I really hope this team was able to learn more than just, hey, Agilities is good at Genji, so we can play Genji. Like, it's more than that, and it has to be more than that if we're going to see these successes moving forward. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yes. So with that, let's chat about the last matchup.
Philadelphia.
Defiant versus Fidelity.
The one that ended the Cinderella run, unfortunately.
I know. Well,
this is fine.
What are your thoughts on that?
It's fine, right? Like, I think the reason I was so disappointed and we've been so negative on this team for so long was because I think for a long time we expected Defiant to be where they were in this tournament. Not like consistently getting top 4, but I always thought they were going to be a team in that top 8, especially in North America, that could potentially, you know, right meta, right day, push these top teams like Atlanta, like LA Valiant, like the Gladiators to the brink and sneak into that top 4, right? Like, I always thought they had that potential, and we haven't seen it all year, but we did this time. But the point I'm trying to make was nobody ever thought they were better than the Shock, right? Yeah. Nobody ever thought they were going to be better than Philadelphia. Even best case scenario, I never thought they were going to beat Philadelphia. Like, I can come on here and knock the fact that, like, Logix got beat by, my phone. Logix got beat by Carpe in the Ash 1v1, right? Yeah. Like, somewhat handily, and that's a big reason why we lost. But, like, nobody thinks Logix is Carpe. Like, that's such an unfair expectation to expect Logix to be better than Carpe. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure if Logix gets really hot, there's potential that he can win those duels, but, like, man, like it's fine. You know what I mean? Philadelphia's a really good team. They're arguably better than us in like all 6 positions. Our only hope was really if Agilities was so much of a better Genji than EQO that we would be able to snowball that. Yeah. But the problem was EQO is like a really good Genji too. So we played mirror and like we played well, right? It was close. The first 2 maps are close. Anubis not so much, but at that point, like, are you going to reverse Philly? Probably not. So I bet that could be a mental stuff. But overall, like, I was happy with the performance that I saw. I think it just comes down to like we just aren't as good as Philadelphia, and I'm okay with that.
No, I totally agree, and I think that Agilities is actually pretty close to EQL. Like they're similar levels, that's for sure.
For sure. But I mean, he's not so much better than EQO that it makes up for like
he can carry. Yeah,
like Fury's a god. You know what I mean? Like Nevix played really, really well. Is Nevix Fury? Maybe not. Is Nevix supposed to be Fury? No, right? Like
not to plug anything out, or to plug our other content, but essentially the 3 stars today, and he plugged Fury
TikTok
as number 2.
Instagram.
Yeah. Follow us on TikTok and Instagram, #CAE Sports. But he got a 2nd star, and he got it for a reason. Like he was hitting pretty much every single like accretion flux like out there.
Yeah, exactly. Like I love Kareev. We've talked so much about Kareev. Is he as good as Alarm? Probably not. That's okay, right? Like there's only like 1 Alarm in this league, 2, 3 Alarms in the league, right? There's only 1 or 2 Furies in the league. Like Philadelphia is arguably the 2nd best team in North America. I would say I would say they are the 2nd best team in North America. I think there's a clear them and Shock. I mean, you're right. You get the right meta. Obviously, Paris can pop off.
Yeah.
But this is also Paris with Sparkle, right? Like Agilities isn't Sparkle and Genji. Like that's okay. I'm as a Defiant fan, I'm totally okay with that. I will be happy if we get these top 4 positions. I would love to take in a map. I think map 1 was winnable. Map 2 was close.
Yeah.
I think especially on Kings Row, we actually maybe even could have taken that one. Like, but once we lost map 1, I was like, shit. I was like, we're in trouble. Like, you know what I mean?
That's tough. So do you have any closing thoughts? Anything else you're thinking about in general? Yeah, just my closing thought was going to be like just overall a great performance by Toronto Defiant. Guys, I want to thank you finally for the organization, all the fans. Like if you're a Toronto Defiant fan, do not take anything negative away from this performance. I know we didn't win the whole thing, but trust me, that's okay. This is exactly what I want to see moving forward. I really hope that they can snowball this, bring this momentum, please, guys, in the next performance. It's okay even to get top 4. But again, I'd like to see that push into that top 8, give these better teams at least a run for their money, and let's keep this momentum going. But again, if you're a Defiant fan, just sit down, enjoy it, be happy. You've earned it. Exactly. Yeah, I think that the Defiant fans should revel in the fact that our team did great and that we've stuck by their side and been expecting something like this and got it, which is amazing. A couple of takeaways is I think we mentioned our 3 keys to success against Philly. I liked seeing Toronto Defiant play a more aggro play style in some of like Full Sky and some other maps against Atlanta Reign. I want to see more of that moving forward. Yeah, and I like this point. My only little kind of point is I think Seb needs to like just dial it, just keep practicing it, because you're right. There's moments where he just fucking bull rushes in there, and it's fine because we played so slow. So I'm all for that because Ben Best did a very similar strategy, but there's like I don't know if it's ping. There's a couple times where he just bull rushed a little too much and got picked too early, and then we just lost the team fight. So I'm totally okay with that strategy. That's just something that he needs to just, as a team, just focus on a little bit more. You know what I mean? Just hone into like when can you bull rush, and if he does, how are you going to properly support him? Because I really like the strategy of utilizing a Larissa and the Fortify to tank damage. There's just a couple times where he was cut out of position. So again, it's a learning experience, right? You top 4, go to the tape, review it, come back. Good to go. Okay, with that, well, I'd like to thank everybody for listening. Hopefully you like this. If you did, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell icon to actually get notified when our videos go live. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok. TikTok, I think, is at CAE Sports. Yeah. And I believe Instagram is the same, but if not, it's CaOverwatch. Yeah, I'll put the links in the description below. But as always, guys, thank you for watching and enjoy.